Hello and welcome. I'm Professor Kirsten Quinn, your host for the Philadelphia Cultural Forum on CCP-TV, Community College of Philadelphia's educational channel. Tonight our special guest is Eileen McCulloch, Artistic Director of the Vagabond acting troupe. The Barrymore-honored Vagabond acting troupe, VAT, is a physical-based experimental theater company which presents works for children, families, and adults throughout Pennsylvania and surrounding states. The troupe operates out of offices in Morgantown, PA, and runs workshops and a production series dedicated to their home community at Route 82 and Fairview Road, Honeybrook, PA. Serving the tri-county tip of Lancaster, Berks, and Chester counties, Vagabond started out in Philadelphia and has made the shift from resident company to touring company and resident company over the past several years. Please join me in welcoming Eileen McCulloch to the show. Hi, Eileen.
Hi, Kirsten.
Thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for inviting us.
It's been many years since I've seen you, and I'm just so glad to see you again. So I wanted you to tell us a little bit about the history of Vagabond and where you guys are now, because you started 20 years ago.
Yes.
Congratulations.
It's our 20th anniversary in January.
Wow.
And we started out in my living room as an educational theater company because I was doing a lot of theater with young people of my age at that time because I was young then. And we were working in community theater, a lot of us going to school, and wanted to explore styles that we weren't exploring in more traditional theater. And that's really how we started. We got together in my living room, did acting classes together, explored Grotowski and the city stage works, and really got into things that we wouldn't get to do on the normal stage. That's really how we got started.
That's really cool. And so you started out in Philadelphia. A lot of your work was done in Philly.
Our very first production was done in Philadelphia. I was going to Villanova University. This is after we started the company.
Oh, okay.
I started going to Villanova, and a few of us did a senior thesis project for Thomas DeSanto. And after the show was done, everybody gave us such rave reviews that somebody suggested, one of the teachers suggested that we take it on the road. And that was really Vagabond's first show.
Right.
And when we named Vagabond way back when we first started, we said, well, we don't have our own theater space. We'll call it Vagabond, and we'll move around, and wherever we have a space, that's where we'll work. And that's what happened with this first show. We then took it into the city, and we worked with Joe Caroli. He wasn't where he is right now. Right now, I think he's at the Adrian, but he was at a different space, and we took the show there. And we got such incredible praise in the newspapers that then we went, well, maybe we should tour some more work. So that's really how the company started off. That I think from the work we were doing outside and then the work we were doing at Villanova, the students there, and it was really a student-run company from the very beginning, since we were studying and being students in the beginning. And everybody keeps saying to me, you've changed so much over the years, but to me it feels like we're doing exactly what we did in the beginning. We're just doing different shows.
Yeah,
so.
And you're working with younger
and younger
performers
performers.
Well.
Yes, and as young as 3 years old, I've had working with me. Yeah, but that was a special case, and you will probably see her in movies coming up soon because she actually just shot a film. She's 6 now, but she started with me when she was 3. Her mother actually called me and said, "Would you mind? She's 3 years old, and I know it says you don't start till they're 6, but would you mind if she came in?" And I went, "There is no way I'm working with a 3-year-old." She said, "Could I just bring her and you could meet her and see if you think it?" She walked in the door. I met her and I went, "You're in."
Really?
So yeah, and she's been with us on almost every show we've done since she was 3 years old.
My
for the younger set. She keeps saying, "When do I get to do Junior Pro? When do I get?"
That's a little ways off.
Yeah, so wait a little while.
So you have a lot of different programming that you do.
Oh, we do. Yes. One of my goals has been to reach children ever since we first started. I wanted to act from the age of, well, from birth.
Right.
But then started with my neighbors. We started a theater company in the backyard when I was 7. So I have been doing theater for 41 years.
Oh my God.
And
that's so cool.
When we started the one in the backyard, we wrote our own plays. We produced our own plays. So we have a program now called Backyard Theater, where we teach kids how to run their own programs in their backyards. So that's a little less formal.
Okay.
They come in, they just sign up for a class, they come in, we teach them, take them from the very beginning, from when they first write their play, casting their play, take them through the whole process, and then send them out to do plays in their backyards. And we've had parents say, "You should see the play they just did in the backyard." And so that's our beginner level, just for kids who just want to do it for fun.
Okay.
And then we have our musical theater and classical theater workshop program, which is very serious classes where we spend a first part of the class period teaching a lesson about something that we think is critical to those particular kids at that time in their studies. And then we also rehearse a production. So every class ends in a production.
Oh, wow.
And we feel that that's really important because theater isn't theater without that audience. And so if you have classes that don't end in performance, then they're not getting the most critical element of the training.
Exactly.
And then we have junior professional training program, which is competitive audition.
Okay.
The students come to a regular audition just like you would downtown. They schedule their appointment. They're supposed to bring a headshot and a resume. And we put them through the whole audition process. And then we cast it, and sometimes don't cast everybody.
Right.
In any of the previous programs that I mentioned, everybody gets cast.
Everybody.
Anybody who shows up gets cast. And so that's kind of the 3 levels.
Right.
You may remember back when I first started Vagabond, we had what we called the novice, the journeyman, and the master levels. That was kind of how we approached this ensemble even back when we first started.
Right.
And nobody was a master when we first started. We were working
Of course not. We all have to work towards that. I don't even know if I've gotten there
But
yet.
we were like, that was our goal, work towards being a master. And now with the kids, we kind of have the 3-tiered approach as well.
Right.
And then outside of that, we also are the resident theater company working with the Twin Valley Middle School. So we have a free after-school program. Again, we cast everybody who wants to participate, and we create original shows for them so that every child has at least a few lines in the show.
That's a great experience for young performers to have. I mean,
absolutely.
it's invaluable.
Yeah.
I know so many students here at CCP would have loved to have that once they get to this level and they're even just starting acting. Say, why didn't I do this sooner?
Oh, we're hearing such great things
You
from the
know?
high school now. We've actually had teachers come up when I go to the high school shows to watch them. They say, the actors who are coming up are so different than what we had before because now they're going through these programs younger than what they did before.
Right, and it's preparing them for what's to come. And, you know, preparing for an audition process, I think, is a really crucial skill, which, you know, if you can learn that at a younger age, you just
and one of the
get
things
better and better
the
at
reason
it.
I wanted to do it at this age was I didn't feel like I learned how to actually walk in and audition for a professional audition till after college.
Right.
Right? They didn't really teach
No,
that in college.
not at all.
And so we actually, the first day of every audition workshop is about how to prepare your audition. That's
Exactly.
before we even go to classes.
Right.
So we offer the free audition workshop to everybody in our community. So anybody can come. I teach them, I walk through, I show them a monologue, I show them a song.
Yeah.
I do the whole thing, you know, I say you've got 3 minutes, so you want to show yourself, we walk them through the whole thing. And then the exciting part is that we still are also doing our adult programs, so the kids get to see us do shows. Last season we did Walt Vail's Neighbors again. Because it was such a hit for us a few years ago. And we did it so the kids could come watch all of the adults, all of their teachers in production.
That's really great to see that.
Right.
I know, you know, inviting my students to come see me, I mean, it's nerve-wracking.
It's nerve-wracking, yeah.
But it's also a lot of fun because then it's like, oh, well, my teacher's really doing this too, you know, in addition to teaching.
It was so fun listening to them in the audience because they're like, going, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. You know, they're like so vocal because they're used to the interactive process we have.
Yeah, right.
And then watching myself and Jeff Bideman, who's been with the company since we started it, up on stage playing 2 of the leads in the show. And then some of the younger teachers that we have were playing the other 2 parts. They got to see the whole staff in the production.
Yeah.
And that was really fun for us.
Oh, and it's fun
And now
for them too.
Now we reference back too. So and we're also in the works of doing, you know, bringing back some of our big hits from Fringe festivals. So we're in the works for that too.
So are you planning to maybe do the Fringe next year?
That's what we're talking about. Yeah.
Okay.
2 years ago we did Fringe, and prior to that we did it almost every year.
Yes.
And then this year we had decided we were going to bring some of the teens down to do the Fringe festival. But we were doing Macbeth, a production of Macbeth that was very physical, you know, 13 actors, all being the fog on the ground and all that kind of stuff, which is very much reminiscent of Anne Bogart. Sorry, Anne, that was the name I was looking for.
Yeah, Anne Bogart City.
Very representative of the work that I had studied when I first started out. And we wanted to bring it to Fringe because I thought they did such a fabulous job. And plus, we had kids as young as 10 in the production.
It's really impressive.
So to bring down this very physical production to Fringe, but our Macbeth is an AP honors student and was just starting school and realized there was no way he was going to be able to juggle that, and it was just too new for him to ask if he could get out of school. And so everybody was very understanding, and we were already knee deep in Romeo and Juliet rehearsals at that point anyway, so
so you're
which was not quite as physical a production, but still we used some of that physical element in it.
So what are some of the programs that are coming up this year? What are some of the shows that you guys are going to be doing?
Well, right now, and probably between now and December, we've got 3 shows in the works, and then also a 4th at the Twin Valley Middle School. So we're doing an original production of Thumbelina at the Twin Valley Middle School, and that's a production that we wrote years ago when we first started this youth program. But the reason we're doing one we wrote for them is so we can add parts, because we have 50 kids in the show.
Unbelievable.
So we want to make sure every child who wants a line or 2 lines has lines. Every child who wants to dance gets to dance. Every child who wants to sing gets to sing. And so we're using that production again, since we have the flexibility to change the roles a little bit. And then at the theater this year, like we used to do with the ensemble, it used to be that the ensemble sat and talked and what did they want to do for the year. And then for a few years there, as we moved into a new space and financing was critical and making the choices was critical. Now we're at a point where we can go back to letting the ensemble choose. And the kids wanted to do Little Mermaid Junior, that's Disney's Little Mermaid Junior. They wanted to do that production. And they wanted to do High School Musical. They've been asking for years, but I never felt they were quite ready for high school yet. But now we finally have kids
now they're ready.
who are ready for high school. And it was very fun because the very first show we did out in Morgantown with kids was called A Charm School Witch. And when we did it, we had actually advertised to do a different show, but we only had 5 kids show up. And I said, well, I don't know, maybe we should just cancel 5 kids for a show. And they cried. They so desperately, there was no theater to do out there at that time. I mean, you should see it now. There's theater everywhere now. But there was no theater, and I said, well, I'll write something. What do you want me to write? And they said, something with witches in it. So I wrote a musical called A Charm School Witch with Nora Whitaker, who's been my musical writing partner on a lot of shows. And we wrote this original musical for them. Well, all of those kids who were first at that first audition are auditioning for High School Musical. So it's kind of fun to have them all, because they've gone off, they're doing other shows. Casey Clunan, who started with us, actually came down and worked with Brat Productions on a show. I mean, my kids are all over the place. We've had kids on the Walnut Street stage, we've had kids auditioning for Broadway. So far we haven't had any get on Broadway, but
it'll happen.
But so they're busy, they're out there, but they all came back to audition for High School Musical, which is really
they want to work with you.
It's really fun.
They love you and they want to work with you again.
So for me, High School Musical, not necessarily the show that I normally would have picked. I was leaning towards Bat Boy the Musical. That's what I wanted to do. Oh, that's fun. But because they all wanted to. But we had over 40 kids show up for this audition. So now we're in the middle of the casting phase, and this is Junior Pro. So this is the one where we actually cut people. Like, oh, no. So we're doing a High School Musical, and then we're doing an original production of The Snow Queen. We're actually calling it a dancicle. We're partnering up with our neighbors next door, Remix Studio, and we're doing acting bits. I'm handling all the acting bits, and then the studio is handling dance along the lines of, the Nutcracker, wintry type dance thing. They've really been looking for something they wanted to do that was dance oriented, but they just didn't want to do the Nutcracker because every ballet studio does it. So we had done a puppet version of The Snow Queen years ago on tour. And I said, well, I could take this puppet script. And it was very dancey, very physical, and change it so that those physical bits are dance numbers. So that's what we're working on right now, the original script for that. And we start rehearsals for that in just a couple of weeks.
Oh, boy.
So it goes up in December. High School Musical doesn't go up till February. And then in the spring, we're talking about the kids who do the Shakespeare. They've done several Shakespeare, Midsummer, Much Ado, Macbeth, and now Romeo and Juliet, and they would like a break from that kind of classic theater, so you're going to laugh. They want to do a classic mystery like an Agatha Christie. I was like, we don't really call those classic, we call those contemporary, but we're going to, so the classic group is going to take on a mystery, classic, I think. Yeah, we haven't decided which one, but we're researching right now in play reading process. And then we'll do Charlotte's Web, I think, is going to be in the spring. And then we're always coming up with something new. The Twin Valley Middle School writes their spring show.
Okay, so they're still in the process.
Right,
of,
and I really take everything I've learned. I used to work for Philadelphia Young Playwrights Festival.
Yeah, I remember
that. And so I will take all those skills I learned there to help them write a play. And last year they wrote a play, We All Fall Down, which was a creepy murder mystery.
Oh. And
that was the 7th and 8th grade. There were only 12 of them. So they can write something a little more that makes a lot of sense. Whereas the 5th and 6th graders wrote a play called Fluffy Time, which was very funny. But this We All Fall Down production, I could see it going on and being an adult production. They did such a nice job with it. But this year they'll write their own play again, and so that'll happen in the spring.
Okay.
And then I'll fall down and be asleep for
and you'll fall down and be asleep as well. Yeah,
exactly.
I don't know how you do it. I mean, honestly, I don't know how you handle all of these different projects at once. And you say you do have people that are working for you. What did they do to help you?
Well,
you're doing so much.
We have a full staff of volunteers who help out.
Okay.
But they are the parents of all the children in the program. And then, of course, we have the staff of those who've been with us for many years who work heading up the different projects. Jeff Bideman, who's been with the ensemble, who's in the very first acting class, is our primary music director for junior pros, so he does that. Jenny Wilkin has been with us for a few years, and she usually music directs the younger set.
Okay.
There was a point at which Jeff said, I can't direct as many shows as you do, Eileen. I have to just pick and choose.
You're amazing.
So he wanted to go with the teens, and then we brought in Jenny Wilkin. But mostly it's parents who volunteer to help, and I say volunteer, but we don't charge a lot for any of our classes. We're, from my research, the least expensive program in the region.
Wow.
And one of the things is we try to make sure that every child in our region who wants to do a show can participate. And we're in rural America, and there's a lot of folks who don't have a lot of money out there.
Right.
We don't want to turn anybody away. So what we do is we require a certain amount of volunteer hours from families. Now, it doesn't have to be the parent. When they get older, it's usually the teens coming in to do those volunteer hours. But that is part of their requirement for participation. To help us keep expenses low, we then staff through the volunteer hours that we get. And so that's how we get the shows done. So I'll have parents who do costuming, help me with costuming, and parents who play the piano, and parents who come in and play the drums, and
so they're adding their talents.
Oh yeah, all their talents are in there. I mean, a lot of them wanted to be theater people when they were young, or for whatever reason they're not, and some of them are in the arts. I don't think we have any professional actors out there or any professional directors who are helping, but they may have that in their past. So it's a pretty good staff, considering the fact that we're making them do it. You know?
But they must want to help out.
I think so. And one, although we keep it inexpensive, I think the arts are valuable. And so it is essential to me that we make sure everybody knows that there is value in what I am giving to the children, and what Jeff is giving to the children, and what Jenny is giving to the children, and that we expect that they value it too, and we understand that times are tough everywhere, that money just is hard to come by, and especially for things like the arts, which are always considered to be an extra thing, even though you know how I feel about it. I think they're more essential than sometimes some of the other subjects we were required to study.
For sure.
So we ask them to invest, and they invest their hours. They also they are the ticket sellers. We don't do much in the way of public relations, PR,
because you
marketing. It's all word of mouth. We ask them to spread the word. They spread the word, and our program exponentially has grown every year since I started it. We went from 10 kids finally in that first production, because each of those kids brought a friend, And from that, at this point, we're serving about 500 children a year, just on the acting side of things.
Yeah.
So then we have other kids who are interns coming to help out with sound and lights. I mean, we've had 10-year-olds on the light board for shows. I mean, we're talking our kids are going to be very beneficial to your school eventually.
I please encourage them to come to CCP after they're done.
But they do everything. They do everything for us. Last year during doing Macbeth, we had an intern from Twin Valley High School, John Seal, who came in and he wrote an entire musical score for the show, played it for the show, and it was a character in its own for such a physical production.
Yeah.
It really was a creepy score.
Yeah.
And we have assistant directors who are teens from Downingtown East High School.
Okay.
Heather Kalkowitz, who plays our Juliet in the production, I think we have a clip from that.
Yeah.
She is assistant directing on Little Mermaid right now. So that's really how we get it all done. I think my primary role is that I'm the organizing fingers that try to keep all of it up in the air at the same time.
Right.
And occasionally something gets dropped. But, to try to make sure there's enough rehearsals for every show, because it's a 10-class program for our workshops. It's only 10 classes. So in those 10 classes, we have to get 40, 50 kids rehearsed and up on the boards. So my job is to let go. And one of the things people will tell you when I first started, I was very hands-on, very controlling. It was one of the things that I needed to learn some lessons about. And there's no way we could do what we do now if I was like that anymore. I mean, I really had to learn to, send the kids off with an assistant director and have that assistant director work with them, bring it back and tweak what they did. Really, so it's and the ensemble used to do that too. I mean, The Art of War, which was our maybe biggest known production that we did in the city. It was Barrymore nominated for ensemble, and it just got such amazing feedback. Was created in that way. Everybody go off, do things, bring them back, we tweak, we tie it together, we make it work as a project. So exploring community has really been the way to be able to run a company the way that we have now.
Yeah.
We are extremely busy. Even I look at it now and go, how are we doing so much?
Yeah.
And I think I mentioned to you earlier before we started, we're going to be starting a touring company with teens now, because we backed off on the touring for a little bit.
Right, so that you could focus on the resident stuff.
We got a building, and the building...
You got to use the building.
building requires
you cannot use the building.
For one thing, you have to make sure you fix it when the roof is leaking, and you have to do all that stuff. But we wanted to use the time effectively in the building while we have the building. But last year we toured a show to the Twin Valley Elementary School for their RIF program, because all of their funding was cut for RIF. Reading is fundamental. And so they asked us if we could do something inexpensive for them. And we said, well, we've got a kids show that we could do for you. We were doing A Year with Frog and Toad. And I said, we could do that for you if you pay the royalties, because we don't have to pay the actors, because the and they said, well, we'll give it a try. Okay. So after the show, the kids said that was one of the best things they've ever seen. They loved it because it was kids, right? They really identified with the actors. And then they asked us if we would bring another show for this coming RIF. Okay. And they asked us way back a year ago. So and I said, well, what are you looking for? They said, something having to do with American history. And I was like, oh, kids are going to love that. So let's do a show about American history. But then I remembered that when we first started out, our first touring show outside of Danny and the Deep Blue Sea, which was that college project, was Paul Bunyan's American Tall Tales. So I said, well, let me see if I can get some of our homeschoolers, because we have a lot of homeschoolers in the program.
Sure.
If we can get some of our teen homeschoolers to put together this touring production of Paul Bunyan, we can bring it to your school and we can bring it to other schools. And it'll just cost a little bit of money as opposed to what it would cost if we were bringing in our adult ensemble.
Right, the adult ensemble.
But I will tell you, our kid ensembles are frequently just as good as the adult ensembles, because some of them have been studying since they were 3 years old.
Right, so they have a huge amount of experience.
Right. Sometimes more, they bring in their resumes, and I'll have adults coming in because our junior pros are open to adults too. Okay. Because usually, like High School Musical has a couple of adult roles.
Right.
We did Grease; it has a couple of adult roles. So we welcome adults to come in and play those adult roles. Yeah. And some of these kids' resumes, are so much denser than what you're seeing from the adults coming in to do a show.
Yeah.
So, you know, they've got the experience, and these kids are very excited.
I'm sure they are.
It'll be their first touring experience,
Yeah.
and all 4 of the kids who are coming in to do the touring show with us, because it's just a four actor show, are professionals at this point. They've gone and done shows elsewhere. They've taken what they've learned with us and they've gone elsewhere, but this will be their first touring experience.
So you work with all of these young performers. What is it like for them? Like, what is that process like for them in working on a show, working on a class, doing a tour? How is that for them?
Well, I haven't done a tour with them yet. I'll
Okay,
tell you about
yet.
that later.
All
We're
right.
just starting on that.
Okay.
But I think one of the things we do is we teach them each of the steps, and I always approach it as if you were a professional actor, this is what you would need to learn. And then I teach them the steps that it would take to get them through the audition process. Then they get up on the stage and they do the audition process for us.
Okay.
And then I'll feed back to them, just like in any college acting class.
Right,
Here
we
are
do that
things,
too.
here are things that you could do to improve that. Here are things that would make that a stronger audition. One of our rules at Vagabond is there's no right and wrong.
Okay.
So my goal is always to tell you, well, this would be stronger, and here's why I think that would be stronger.
Right.
What you did wasn't wrong; it was right. This might make it stronger if you work more on inflection. We might see more of your range, or if you do this. But it's really about supporting the child and letting them know. I mean, when it comes down to it, my goal is not to teach them how to act in the long run. It's to teach them to be more confident about making choices, which I think is what acting is all about.
It is.
But more confident in their choices and the things that they want to choose to do with their lives. My goal is to make sure that they feel confident to make those choices, which I think is why we have so many kids going off and doing big projects when they leave us, because they're so confident about their skills by the time they go. But what we do is I mean, you know, when you have 40 kids, it's a different experience than when you have 10.
Sure.
So it really depends on the show and the enrollment process and who's there. But we try to always make sure that every child is actively involved at all times while they're in the building. So, as I said, that means splitting up, sending them into different rooms. We invite them to participate in any side of it that they want to.
Okay.
So we have children who started out coming in to see if they liked acting, and now they're directing with us.
Okay, so they direct, they're acting.
They
in
direct,
production.
they act. As I said earlier, they run lights.
Writing.
They write the shows, right? So it really depends. Sometimes we do book musicals, but one of the things I'm constantly reminding them is that when we do the book musicals, there's a set number of roles. So then it's harder. It's harder casting large casts so that everybody gets to play Ariel. You can't have everybody play Ariel.
No.
I mean, even if you did a very experimental, absurdist production of The Little Mermaid, I don't think you could have 50 kids play Ariel. So that's one of the things that we're trying to teach them, is that also that there are things out of their control, so they shouldn't take it personally, right?
What do they say in response to the work that they do? Like, what kinds of feedback do they give to you guys?
Well, mostly the feedback is, what's next?
Okay.
You know, that's what I usually hear at the cast party. Miss Eileen, what are we doing next? And I say, I don't know. Let me sleep tonight and we'll figure it out tomorrow. And then they'll throw out their ideas. That's kind of how the season developed, right? So then they're like, how about we do Little Mermaid? How about we do High School Musical? I want to do something where I get to play a pig. Somebody said that to me. So I'm like, well, would it be the Three Pigs? Is it what are we going to do? You know, so they really suggest. And in fact, this last week, this is the first time this has happened. A group of 8 kids came to me and said, we've decided to start an a cappella group. Because they were part of our Showstoppers program. I didn't even mention Showstoppers. Showstoppers is kids working on just musical side of things, and they go to senior homes and things like that and perform music at senior homes or community events or things like that. And it's about community service. That's the goal. We don't charge anything for their shows, but they take up donations to give scholarships to kids to send them to other programs.
Right.
We most recently sent a child to the School of Rock to study. And then the only give back she has to give back is she has to do a performance to raise more money for the next child to go.
Right.
And then she has to do a talk back with the kids and talk about what it was like at the School of Rock since she's been with us. And this is the Jackie K. Knox Memorial Scholarship Project. So the kids from the Showstoppers raised the money for that to help with the scholarships.
And Jackie was a former company member who passed
Jackie
away.
passed away in a car accident.
Very young.
Gosh, a long time ago now, it seems. Maybe back around the beginning of the time we were starting the youth program. And so we started raising money to give scholarships in her name because she had gone to California to study and had been talking about bringing back everything she learned. So that's that's the goal with the scholarship project that they raise funds for. But I think the thing with the kids is, they've all written me notes. Like I have tons of little notes, and what they say to me is, I never realized what I had to say was important, or I've never had adults listen to me the way you guys listen, or I'm getting a little teary-eyed.
Yeah, me too.
Or I've never felt that my ideas were good enough to put up on stage, and when I was watching that show and I saw my line come out of that person's mouth, I was so excited. Can I write more?
Yeah.
You know, those kind of things. That's the response we normally get. Now, occasionally we get, I want to do a bigger part. That wasn't enough. I want something more. And so that's part of that process of explaining to them that even in professional theater, we don't always have we always can't control it.
Right.
You never know who's going to walk in next. I always remember we were doing Annie Jr. a while back. You always start with Annie Jr. if you're starting a theater program with children because you'll get a lot of people in the door. Right?
Yeah, sure.
So we started with, this was after we did the ones we wrote with the almost no kids. We then did Annie Jr. And I remember there was these boys, they really wanted to be Daddy Warbucks, and they were little. They were so cute and so little. There was no way I could cast them as I was going to have to cast a girl as Daddy Warbucks if a guy didn't walk in. And a boy, I think he was 14 or 15 years old, walks in the door, and his hair's all shaved, really tight and everything. And you just saw these two little boys go as he walked in the door.
He's already got the shaved head for it.
Yeah, and in that show, I used him as an example. He walked in the door, and I turned to the kids and I said, well, here's an acting lesson. William, what just happened to you when you saw this gentleman walk through the door? And William goes, I just realized I'm not playing Daddy Warbucks. And I said, now, we haven't heard him sing. Right?
There you go.
So there's always a chance.
Yeah.
I said, but there are things outside of our control as performers that I'm not going to play the young ingenue ever again.
Yeah,
that time is past.
Realism.
So, right, and so it's teaching them to see themselves, but not just to see the negative side of themselves. Some of them have been shocked when they do get the lead.
Sure.
They'll walk up and go, I thought for sure such and such was going to get the role. And I was like, well, you can sing all the notes. She may look like to you what the part should be, but you can sing the part like nobody's business. You get the part. And I've never been a director who casts based on look. That's always been like the last thing.
That's good,
right?
Because you cast it based on talent.
Right, and ability, skill. Sometimes they haven't honed that talent, so the talent's not quite there yet, or whatever. But what I'm trying to do is give them in our program an experience that's going to help them to grow.
Okay.
So, for example, we have a really great singer playing the non-speaking role of Ariel. We have two girls playing Ariel in The Mermaid. One plays the singing underwater Ariel, and one plays the doesn't have a voice on land Ariel. That way we can have magic. We want magic where when she gets turned into the legged Ariel, we have an Ariel suddenly show up, right?
Yeah.
But she's a really awesome singer.
Okay.
Rachel Gebhardt is a really great singer, and I think she might have been surprised when she didn't get a singing part. Well, she sings a little because she does the ahs off stage, But I told her, well, what I want to expand with you during this production is your ability to be bigger on stage. She's very much filmic,
Right.
She's small movements.
More internal.
I really want that acting to come to the surface. And when you can't speak, that's all you've got.
That's true.
And she looked at me and she went, oh. And she suddenly realized that this was going to be really good for her.
Yeah, it'll be a really good experience.
Right.
So we have a couple of clips to show from your productions. I believe the first is from Zeusical. Can you tell us a little bit about that before we watch the clip?
Zeusical, a musical of mythical proportions, is what it's called.
Okay.
And we wrote it because the kids last year said they wanted to explore the gods and goddesses. And could I write a play about gods and goddesses. It's a musical using all public domain music written before the 1920s, because I just wasn't up to writing all the songs too, which sometimes I do. Yeah. But on this one, it had to come together quickly, so we used a bunch of public domain songs. And in this particular clip, this is Medusa and Perseus. Okay. Perseus and Medusa have a little romance in our play, which allowed them each to do a solo, because both of the kids doing these roles, Lionel McCulloch, who is my son, I will admit it, he's been acting since he was born, and so he has a song in, well, they actually, both songs are pretty much duet, I think. Okay. Oh, maybe he doesn't sing on Rachel's. And Rachel Wilkin, who is Jenny Wilkin's daughter. Okay. And one of the reasons I'm using that clip is then I don't have to deal with having to reach out to parents and ask for permission to have their kids in the clip. So I know we're safe.
You're safe with that
with royalties and all that kind of stuff. But I do want to send a heads up to Charlie Wright, who did all of the music for the show. So you'll hear that in the in the background behind it. But in this clip, Perseus has been chasing Medusa across the country and trying to find her, and he goes up to Olympus, where Athena has just given him a mirrored shield and told him to look into the shield, and he is confronting Medusa for the first time.
Cool, so let's take a look.
All right. Mirror, where's Athena? Whoa! Who's that? Perseus, resident hero. Oh, I heard you. You like to chase down monsters. Unless they walk right up to me and greet me. In which case, I don't chase them. Well, come out here and have a look. Athena certainly makes sure that I'm the worst monster in the crowd. Nobody's ever disappointed. Be my little baby bumblebee. Round, 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 round. All your honey love to see. Little bee, little bee, little bee. Let's be spend our happy now. Whoa, with you, not the clouds. When we get where no one else can see.
If you love me like you should.
was really amazing. I mean, I can't believe that these are kids performing up there.
They're,
I mean,
they're
have
10 years old, both of those kids.
Exactly.
Too. It's pretty amazing. And then you have a lot of little heads popping out from the sides, anywhere from 3-year-old, in this one, 5 years old.
Right, with the little ones.
Up to 17 were in this show. So this was one show in the year where we combined everybody. So we had some of the junior pro kids working with the younger kids to give them that kind of professional example. And but yeah, it's sometimes hard for me to believe it too when I watch the kids.
Well, you should be very proud of your son as well.
Well, I'm always proud
doing
of my son.
a fabulous job. And our next clip, we actually have two from Romeo and Juliet. The first clip is between Mercutio and Benvolio.
Mercutio is played by Carl Brahaney, and Benvolio is played by Andrew Patterson.
Okay.
And these two boys have been working with me for a couple of shows. Carl studies acting with me as well. We do an acting class. And Carl's already out doing film now, so it's working great for him. But they were a real hit during our production of Romeo and Juliet. Their physical comedy was just hysterical. And this is just a little tiny bite of it because, again, music in the background. You can't use some of that when you're going to air it publicly unless you have permission from everybody who ever played on any of this. So, so we don't have any of the clips that have music behind them. But this was a really nice one to show how physical the acting program is. Romeo and Juliet's not quite as physical as our Macbeth was, but you can see the boys really putting themselves physically into it. It's not talking heads like sometimes you see with Shakespeare.
Okay, great. So let's take a look at Romeo and Juliet.
How can I go on when my heart is here? Turn back, Toller. Find thy scent around.
Romeo, my cousin Romeo! Romeo!
He is wise, and all my life has stolen him home to bed.
He ran this way and left the tortured wall. Call for Mercutio. Nay, I'll conjure too.
Romeo! Humorous, passion, madman, lover. Appear now in the likeness of a sigh. Speak but one time, and I will be satisfied. He moveth not, he stirreth not, he heareth not. The ape is dead, and I must conjure him. I conjure thee by Rosalind's high forehead, by her bright eyes and her scarlet lip, by her fine foot, her straight leg, and her quivering thigh. By the demeans that there adjacent lie, appear now in thy likeness.
And if he hear thee, thou wilt anchor him.
This cannot anchor him. My invocation is fair and honest, and in his mistress's name I conjure only but to raise up him.
Come, he hath hid himself among these trees, to be consorted by the humorous night. Blind is his love, and best methinks the dark.
If love be blind, love cannot hit the mark. Good night, Romeo. Oh, to my truckle bed. This field bed is too cold for me to sleep. Shall we go?
Go then. 'Tis in vain to seek him here. That means not to be found.
You know, you mentioned physicality, and I think that this is a great example to showcase what you guys do. I mean, in addition to the musical end of things, when you're doing a Shakespearean play, to have that amount of physicality with a young group of actors and being able to train them in those Bogart techniques, in the other techniques that you've mentioned, you know, that's a high level of skill for such a young group of people, and that's definitely coming through.
I think, you know, it's funny because even when you do a really physical Shakespeare and it's really well acted and every actor understands 100% what they're saying, you still have people who come and go, well, I didn't really understand what they were saying, but
you meet it with that physicality.
Right. One of the things that we got after Romeo and Juliet was, I forgot they were doing Shakespeare. And to me, that's like the highest praise you
That
can
is the
possibly
highest
get in a
praise.
contemporary audience, an audience that was filled with kids. Now,
Yeah.
there were still kids who came up and said, I didn't quite understand what they were saying, but many of them came up and said, I forgot for a while that it was Shakespeare.
Yeah.
Because they're so into it, so physical. I wish I could air for you Liz Robb. We combined the role of Capulet and Lady Capulet to let the leader of the Capulet household be a female.
Okay.
And she ripped up those monologues. It
Yeah.
was just amazing. Her physicality was intense,
Yeah.
but she has drums behind her and stuff
Okay.
like that, so
Yeah.
we couldn't
Yeah.
bring that one
Yeah.
in. But yeah, just to watch them grow in that way. In the next clip, the one with Juliet and the nurse,
Okay.
they started very physical, and then we pulled it in tighter and tighter and explored what happens when you start physically big, and then what do you do to get that across as realistic gestures to an audience. I think it was about 10 years ago, Vagabond did a production, Leonard Kelly was directing. Leonard was one of those young folks who started out with us, who now is a college professor at Westchester University. And he was directing the production, and he wanted to experiment, because we're always into experimentation.
Right.
He wanted to experiment with, what do you do if you come up with a physical gesture for every word, every single word, including and the, and all those words. And I was playing Rosalind, and I will tell you, it was torture.
I'm
It was
sure.
absolutely torture. But it created this, but then as we went, he said, now you can shed things.
Okay.
Right? So as we shed things, the story became so physical, so clear, almost like you were dancing through Shakespeare.
Yeah.
And so I always use that as an example with the kids when we're working in the classical works program. And the students in this production just were such an amazing ensemble to work with, and so in tune with this idea of physicality. Now, you won't see the same intense physicality you saw with
In the
Mercutio and
Mercutio
Benvolio,
scene.
because they were really dancing through that
yes.
scene. But in this one, it's what happens when you shed shed away all that. Now, I don't make kids try to do every single word. They would kill me. Just remembering myself having been an actor on the other side. Right. But we did explore, what would this look like physically? Do it without words. Show me the story without words. Now put the words back. That kind of thing. So trying to show that through the piece. And you also remember, again, 10 rehearsals they get, and they put the show up, and then they only get 2 or 3 performances.
How about that?
So the Romeo and Juliet cast, I would love to take them to schools, but we're having trouble because all the schools want us to pay them to bring us the show. I'm like, well, to pay for the space and the stuff. I'm like, no, I'd love to bring the show to show you Romeo and Juliet in a way you can understand, because it's required reading in 9th grade.
Yeah.
So it would be great to have some schools who were interested in having them bring it.
Yeah.
So they would love to.
Okay,
They
good.
told me I had to mention it when I came here.
Yes, well,
They
we
wanted
will,
tour.
I will let people know about that for sure. So let's take a look at this last clip from Romeo and Juliet. This is Juliet and the nurse.
The clock struck 9 when I did send the nurse. In half an hour she promised to return. Perchance she cannot meet him. Oh, that's not so. Oh, she is lame. Love's herald should be thought 10 times faster glides than the sun's beams. Now the sun is upon the highmost hill of this day's journey, and from 9 to 12 is 3 long hours, yet she is not come. Had she affections and warm youthful blood, she would be in swift in motion as a ball. My words would bandy her to my sweet love, and his to me. But old folks, many feign as they were dead, unwieldy, pale, slow, and heavy as lead. Oh God, she comes! Oh honey nurse, what news? Hast thou met with him? Send my man away! Peter, stay at the gate. Now, good sweet nurse. Oh Lord, why look'st thou sad? Though news be sad, yet tell them merrily. If good thou not see that I am out of breath?
How art thou out of breath, when thou hast breath, to say to me thou art out of breath? The excuse thou dost make in this delay is longer than the tale thou dost excuse. Is thy news good or bad? Answer to that.
Well, you made a simple choice. You know not how to choose a man. Romeo, no, not he. Though his face be better than any man's, yet his legs excel all men's. For a hand and a foot and a body, though they not be talked of. Yet they're past compare. He's not the flower of courtesy, but I'll warrant him as gentle as a lamb. Go thy ways, wench. Serve God. What? Have you dined at home?
No, but all this I know before. What says he of our marriage? What of that?
Lord, how my head aches! What a head have I! If beats as it would fall in 20 pieces. My back or t'other side. Oh, my back, my back.
My faith, I am sorry thou art so well. Sweet, sweet, sweet nurse, tell me, what says my love?
Your love sounds like an honest gentleman, and a courteous, and a kind, and handsome, and I'll warrant virtuous. Where is your mother?
Where is my mother? Why, she is within. Where should she be? How oddly thou repliest. Your love says like an honest gentleman. Where is your mother?
Oh God, lady dear, are you so hot? Man, come up, I trow. Is this the poultice for my aching bones? Henceforward, do your messages yourself.
Here's such a coil. Tell me, what says Romeo?
Have you got leave to go to Shrift this afternoon?
I have.
Then hie you hence to Friar Lord's cell. There stays a husband to make you a wife. Now comes the want of blood up in your cheeks. Go, I must another way. To fetch a ladder for your love to climb a bird's nest when it is dark. Oh, I am the drudge and toil in your delight. But you shall bear the burden soon at night. Go, hie you to the cell, all to dinner.
Hie to high fortune, honest nurse. Farewell.
So I can see why you talked about taking all that physicality and then stripping some of it away to create this more subtle and nuanced performance that we're seeing
Still a little
here.
broad comedy there with the nurse because she's funny.
Yeah, of course, but we're getting that dynamic between the characters that's a little bit more intimate in a way,
Right.
Because of less big physicality and more.
Yes, and I think I neglected to mention who played those characters.
Okay.
Heather Kalkowitz,
Okay.
14 years old, is Juliet,
Okay.
and Zoe Bradley is our nurse.
Oh, well, that's amazing. Thanks again so much, Eileen, for being here and for sharing all this information about Vagabond and your passion for the arts. We really appreciate it here. And thank you to our viewing audience once more for joining us and viewing the Philadelphia Cultural Forum on CCP TV, Community College of Philadelphia's educational channel. Check out Vagabond Acting Troupe's website, and until next time, have a great night.